Some members of organized labor are distancing themselves from the TUC's announcement of calling off the intended strike action that was to take effect on November 18. The members are unhappy the decision to call off the strike was not in consultation with members of organized labor. Now, what does this mean? Are these members likely to strike come November 18? We'll be seeking answers on today's big story. My name is Bright Nanamfo. Thanks so much for staying there. The Trade Union Congress on Sunday, November 10, called off its planned nationwide strike and demonstration following government decision to reduce electricity tariffs from 78.9% to 59.18% with effect from October 1. The TUC had earlier announced that it would embark on a nationwide strike on November 18, which will be preceded by a series of demonstrations across the country, and that was based on a 78% and 52% increment in electricity and water tariffs by the PURC. But according to the General Secretary of the TUC, Mr. Kofi Asamoah, the planned actions will not be necessary following the reduction in tariffs by the government. He also stated that the 25% reduction of the starting point of electricity tariffs will significantly cushion consumers from the negative effects of the hikes. However, the decision to call off the strike does not seem to sit down well with some members of organized labor. The group are unhappy about how the TUC took the decision to call off the strike without consulting members of organized labor. Let me quickly speak to the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Solomon Kote, who has just joined me on the line. Solomon, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome, sir.
First of all, you're not happy the TUC called off the strike action?
Well, I'm sorry you are using TUC. It should be organized labor. The action was premised by organized labor, not the TUC.
Right.
Our brother Kofi Asamoah only seems to be the chairman of organized labor in this particular action. And what really happened was that last Friday, we were in the meeting, and the meeting suggested that the standing orders, we are sticking for a reduction in the price increases in these utility tariffs, specifically to the power.
Right.
Now, there was a proposal that let's send this proposal to government, and then you get back to the body that has sent you, okay? And then whatever concessions and compromise have been reached, then we could appreciate it, because organized labor comprised of various national unions, okay? Some of us are so large to the extent that at every region in this country, we are represented. By decisions of organized labor, we have put all of them on the red alert. This was done by the respective national leaders. And therefore, if we are even calling off the strike, it behoves on the national leaders through the same medium by which they go, and they've actually told them that, look, this is what we are doing. They will come at the forum to withdraw. We didn't hear anything on Friday. Only from Sunday and the Monday morning, we saw in the papers that Kofi Asamoah, for that matter, have declared that the ultimatum on the 18th have been withdrawn. It's quite strange. Very, very strange to organize labor. And we are finding it difficult to accept.
You're suggesting, Solomon, you're suggesting that the rest of organized labor was not consulted on this decision to call off the strike.
Exactly.
Now, on the very day that that decision to embark on strikes and demonstrations was announced, some members of organized labor were not there. Your ICU, were you there at that day when the decision was made?
We were in the meeting. ICU was in the meeting on Friday.
Why do you think perhaps Mr. Asamoah, who speaks for organized labor, would not want to consult you and go ahead with that announcement?
You see, I cannot even speak for him as of now, which is not in the best of interest of organized labor, because the basis on which he had done the withdrawal is unknown to me. It's unfounded to organized labor. That's all we are saying. No matter the fact that achievement of 25% reduction has been achieved. That is not the end of the story. The end of the story is that with the 25% reduction that have been given, how are we going to monitor to see its effectiveness? Government is saying that it is willing to pay over 400 million to PURC. That place is also our interest, because if PURC also fails to get the resources to run their respective institutions well, then it means the problems we are having in poor utility services is going to be worsened if government fails to pay those monies to them. And therefore, organized labor at this point is saying this kind of announcement of the withdrawal is not in good taste.
Now tell me, the decision to withdraw or rescind the decision to embark on the strike action, how should it have been carried out by organized labor?
Organized labor met on Friday and they said these issues are supposed to go to government because government was now talking to labor. And then a proposal is sent for a reduction. And it was said that if any reduction is given, get back to organized labor and say, this is the reduction that we have received. And this is the implication of the reduction, both on government and then on PURC. Okay, for us to appreciate the nitty-gritty of it. As it stands now, I'm expected with my large constituency of over 480 employers within ICU, where my members are. I need to give explanation to each and every one of them with the kind of press statement he has done. Where am I getting the response? Where am I getting the information to give to my people? And I'm receiving calls, and I don't have answer to give. And I think this is a serious betrayal.
How have you reacted to your people? They're calling you for explanation. How have you reacted to them?
The frustration that I'm venting out now is the same thing I'm telling them, that we have been taken unawares by the announcement by Kofi Asamoah. We have been taken unawares by that announcement, and the information that came with that, we can't take information from the Minister of Energy and use it as labor's information. We don't know what the arguments have been. We don't know what analysis have been. And we think Kofi Asamoah must come out and respond to us. As we speak now, 48 hours down the lane, nothing has been heard from him. It's organized labor. Only to go on the net and find out that he has put up a press statement over there. And the press statement of this nature with organized labor must be signed jointly, not he alone.
You feel betrayed by what has happened?
Certainly, those of us in organized labor are talking. Probably maybe Friday we could come out with a press statement and pour our sentiments on the matter.
What exactly will that press statement contain on Friday when it comes out? What action would you take?
We are hoping that between now and Friday, okay, either Dr. Kofi Asamoah will come out, talk to us for us to appreciate and ask the relevant questions to why he has done what he did. Because if he has reverted to us and he has given us the explanation, we're all looking for reduction. The reduction that has come is quite substantial. Though it's substantial, there are some technical issues we need to raise. Whether or not the 25% is inclusive of the 16% that goes to the rural electrification, street lights, and all that. Those ones are inevitable. Whether it is purely government subsidy that we are going to receive, that is forming the 25. These are issues, as I talk to you now, I don't know how it has been committed into all this. So we are hoping that by Friday, because we need not to go backward and forward on this thing. Don't forget, organized labor have not said anywhere that PURC does not deserve to increase, their services that they are rendering to us. All we are saying is that the levels by which these increases are coming are beyond us, and something ought to be done. And if the reduction is coming, and the reduction will come even with a recovery roadmap, all these ones we need to appreciate and know how it's going to be done. Whether this reduction is coming with the automatic adjustment formula that will also run with the time. We need to appreciate all this so that when we are talking to our team members, we give them the right information. At the moment, we are hanging in between this.
Let me ask you this. Now, when this decision to embark on a strike was announced, the Ghana Federation of Labour said it is not part of that decision. Some even argue that the organized labor front is divided. Isn't that perhaps what is happening now?
That is not true. For GFL, they have their own knots that they wanted to pick against, organized labor. Because the issue is that if organized labor is taking a decision and you are part of organized labor, then you must act as same. What is happening now is one person who had gone out there to make the announcement, not that 2 or 3 people. It's only one person who have gone to sit with government to make the announcement. Right. Whether it is true he was there or not there, it's an issue for us to look at it. If you watch it carefully, NAT has come out condemning it. NAGAT has condemned it. ISU is condemning it. Ghana Medical Association is also condemning it. So all the rest of the organized labor, we are intact.
Now, let's look at this. Is it the announcement, the decision to call off the strike action, is it that that is worrying, or the fact that government could only subsidize 25% of electricity tariffs?
It's a wonderful reduction by our standards. 1/4 is a wonderful reduction by our standards. But then, as I'm asking you now, what is the nitty-gritty of the reduction? As I go out there and tell my members we have received 25% reduction, I should be able to explain the impact on government itself and the impact on the PURC itself. At what point is government going to resource the PURC? It has said, we have heard the minister say so, that over 400 million will be paid to PURC. When and how is that going to be done? How is that also going to affect the PURC performance itself? These are issues that Labour should be able to explain to its membership.
Right.
Not that we hear 25 and that is the end of the story.
Solomon, hold the line for me. Don't drop your line here. Let me also try and touch base with the head of compensation and working conditions at the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Mr. Benjamin Osei. Mr. Osei, once again, thanks so much for your time. Hello, Mr. Benjamin Osei.
I'm here.
Right.
I say you are welcome.
Thank you. Now, first of all, it's not also worried that Mr. Kofi Asamoah has gone ahead to call off the strike action when organized labor has not properly taken that decision.
Well, let me first of all greet your cherished listener. Well, I listened to the discussions that you had with the earlier discussion.
Right.
And there are some few issues that we need to clarify. Now, on the 7th of November, organized labor had a meeting. And at the meeting, the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress and his deputy and my personal self briefed the House on where we had reached with the negotiations with government. At that meeting, we explained the nitty-gritty that our colleague there was talking about. And the mandate to us was to go back to government and firm the decision that we took. We all accepted the reduction of the 25%. Even though we said that that was not sufficient, it was a good beginning. So the leadership must go back to government and conclude the negotiation. The leadership was also mandated that they should come up with a communique. The details of which the agreement will all be explained in the communique. So the leadership went, and as we agreed at that meeting that we should go in for the 25%, the leadership managed to get the government accept the 25% reduction, and a communique was issued to that effect. Now, most of the issues being raised by our friend at the, who you spoke to before you came to me,
right,
are contained in the communique. And this morning, we have copies of the communique. And most of the issues that he's raising there are contained in the communique. As to whether it includes levies and charges, all of them are contained in the communique. Now, what the organized labor group did not ask our leaders to do was to call off the strike. We did not tell them to go and call off the strike. But we cannot disassociate ourselves from what happened, because at that meeting, we said that they should go and agree. So maybe arising from the agreement with the government, he thought that that statement must be made. But it is procedure. It's an issue of procedure.
Right.
Now, we expect that our leaders who went there to sign the communique will have to come back to organized labor for confirmation of whatever he said there. But what he said, even though he's our leader, that does not end there. It's procedural. They have to come back to tell organized labor that what you ask us to go and do, we have done it. What is the way forward? That should be the procedure that should be followed.
So your argument is that the issues been raised by Mr. Solomon Kote of ICU, all of them were captured in the community, except the fact that
captured. Yeah.
Except the decision to call off the strike action.
That's it. That's it. All the issues that he is raising are contained in the communique.
They have been addressed.
Yes, they have been addressed, and every individual union is going to have a copy of the communique that was issued between organized labor and government. But like you are saying, we didn't ask our leaders to go and say that we have called off the strike, because after all, the issue of water is still outstanding. Now, we went there for reduction of electricity and water. So we have now dealt with electricity. What is left is now the water. And since we haven't finished dealing with it, we will definitely have to go back and renegotiate.
So the issue of the decision to call off the strike being announced is a worry to NAT.
I think there's some music playing at the background. I can't hear you.
Well, I can hear you clearly here. I'm asking, let me try and raise my voice, that the decision to call off the strike action is a worry to NAT.
Well, it's a worry to us in the sense that we needed to take such decision together. And we have drawn the attention of the Secretary General of Ghana Trade Union to that statement that, look, you should have come back for all of us to discuss as to whether we are terminating the strike or not. We have drawn his attention to it.
How would you react to the concerns being raised that organized labor is simply not united in this struggle?
Well, to me, we are united, because most of the decisions that we took to embark on that strike, we took it as a united front. We all appended our signatures. So when we are going back to say that we will not continue with the struggle, all of us will have to append our signatures to it.
So that suggests that you're not united, because, for instance, that decision was taken without the agreement of some members. Let's put it this way.
Well, at that meeting, it was not every organized labor group that came for the meeting. We extended an invitation to all organized labor groups. Some did not come. Some came. Some of us who were there signed the agreement.
Now, this has happened. What is next? In NAT, what decision are you taking regarding this announcement of the call off of the strike action?
Well, we have asked that the leadership of organized labor should call an emergency meeting for us to either confirm or reject what the leaders have done.
And what is the implication? Let's first of all talk about if you decide to reject what your leaders have done. What is the implication?
The implication is that our threat still stands, because all the issues have not been addressed. The water issue is still pending.
And would you say that perhaps the rest of the members will agree, perhaps, and decide to go ahead with the announcement that was made?
In terms of?
In terms of the announcement of the calling off of the strike.
Now, when we decided to go on strike, individual unions met their councils or councils to take certain decisions. So we have to go back to our councils again to report to our councils. When they say we should go or we should stop the strike, we will stop the strike. But if the council is not satisfied with it, now when we met here as organized labor, after we had taken the decision, because of our various structures, we went to our various councils to take decisions. And therefore, you realize that we all informed our members of what the councils have decided to do within the context of organized labor. So after what our leaders have said, definitely organized labor will have to meet and look at the same things again within our structures.
The members of ICU are calling their head, the Secretary General, and asking, why have you called off the decision? And according to Mr. Solomon Kote, he's not been able to tell them anything. Are you receiving the same calls, and how are you reacting to it?
Well, I think when we explained the whole thing, I think you understood our point of view. That, yes, we represented the people, but certain decisions cannot be taken at that level. And he accepted that, yes, there's a need for organized labor to meet immediately and deal with that situation.
And your members have agreed to what you've been telling them?
Yeah, that is when our councils, when we meet and then we report to our councils and our councils say, this is what you'll be. Yes, we'll go by that. We'll tell our members to abide by what the councils say.
Mr. Benjamin, so thanks so much for speaking to me. Let me go back to Mr. Solomon Kote, who is still there on the line. Now, Mr. Solomon, Nat is suggesting that an emergency meeting be held. Are you aware of any such meeting on Friday, and are you attending? Hello, Mr. Kote. Hello, Mr. Kote. Well, I seem to have lost Mr. Solomon Kote of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. But the issue is that the Labour Front seem to be in some kind of a turmoil. Some organized Labour are not really excited about the announcement by the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Mr. Kofi Asamoah, to call off the strike action intended for November 18. Don't forget that the organized Labour on Sunday, November 10, decided on a nationwide strike action following hikes in utility tariffs. 78.9 for electricity, 52 for water. Those were the figures. But organized Labour wanted it slashed. And so a nationwide strikes and demonstrations were announced on November 10th to start on November 18. After government decided to absorb 25% of electricity tariffs, organized Labour came out and said that they are calling off its intended strike and demonstrations, and that is what has triggered some kind of disunity from Labour Front. Some members of organized Labour are not too excited about the fact that the TUC General Secretary went ahead and announced the decision to call off the strike action without consulting the rest of organized Labour. We've been speaking to ICU and NAT, and we'll try hard to also get to Mr. Kofi Asamoah or Wilson Agana of the Tema District Council of Labour to speak to us on exactly why that decision and what can be done. I was speaking to Solomon Kote of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. When I come back, I will try and get organized Labour to respond to these allegations of not consulting other members before announcing the decision to call off the strikers. You're so live on today's big story. Stay there. I'm coming back in a moment. Welcome back to today's big story, and some members of organized Labour are not really excited about the decision by the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress to call off its intended strike action on November 18. Now, these members claim that they were not consulted on that decision and are calling for an emergency meeting on Friday to take a decision. According to these members, they are receiving phone calls from their members across the country asking them why the decision to call off the strike action was not communicated to them. And we've been speaking to the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. We've also spoke to the Ghana National Association of Teachers, and of course, let me play you back TUC Secretary General's announcement of a call-off of that strike action intended for November 18. Let's listen and watch.
TUC Secretary General Kofi Asamoah explains the 25% reduction was concluded with government on Thursday, November 7. It was, however, announced a day before coordinated nationwide protests ahead of a strike that was feared could bring the nation to a standstill.
It's been quite a struggle, and if you take account of what happened from the day that the announcement came up to when we gave an ultimatum and the President, His Excellency the President, intervened, the technical committee and what have you. It's been quite challenging. And we must say that we got to this conclusion with the intervention of captains of industry. That is the Ghana Employers Association, Association of Ghana Industries, and the Chamber of Commerce. They intervened, and then at their instance a meeting was called between us and government.
Kofi Asamoah, however, says the TUC is yet to review its decision to withdraw from the PURC board.
Our involvement in the PURC is something that we needed to examine properly. We would have to find out the merits and demerits of our being there. Because if you recall, most people were arguing that we could not be there and make an argument. Even though in principle we disagree with those people, it doesn't mean that if the board makes a decision, workers cannot complain about it. We do not see it as anything being a stumbling block, but the decision will have to be made by the appropriate structure of the TUC, who would look at it and then finally decide as to whether we should go back to join the PURC or we should stay out.
He reminded government they are still awaiting its position on their demand for reduction in the water tariff.
Whatever it is, we are definitely going to look at water and what its impact on our pay levels and face value of our incomes generally.
Kofi Asamoah also tasked the government and the PURC to implement the automatic adjustment formula.
And trying hard to reach organized labor to react to the concerns of some members who are against the decision to call off the strike action. The members argue that the decision is not based on the fact that the government could only provide 25% subsidy, but because they were not consulted before the decision to call off the strike action was announced by the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress on behalf of organized labor. That's how we're wrapping up the first part of the show. Don't forget that the interactive segment is coming up in a few minutes. My name is Brian Anafo. I'll be welcoming Marian in the studio in a couple of minutes. Stay there. I'm coming back in a minute. Welcome back to today's big story. Time now to talk about interaction, getting interactive and telling us what you think about some of the issues here. Marian has just joined me. Marian, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a Tuesday, and it's a terrific Tuesday. And what is trending today?
Electricity is still trending.
People
at
are
a
still talking
25%
about
subsidy
energy.
is trending. Yes, it is trending. It started yesterday. I mean, getting back off from the weekend, government announcing on Sunday that it decided to subsidize our bills by 25%. Now everybody is asking, where is government going to get that money from? Because
we're told about 400 million Ghana cedis.
Yes, 400 million Ghana cedis. Where is government going to get that money? Are we sacrificing some key projects so the government can move that money from those projects to electricity? What is happening? Everybody's talking about it.
Marian, welcome back. Tell us more about that.
Thank you so much. Welcome to JN Interactive. My name is Myron Toure. If you're just joining us, welcome to JN Interactive within today's big story. And we are talking about the subsidies, 25% government subsidy on our tariffs, especially electricity. I'd like to announce all the social media tools that you need to get in touch with the show. You will find us at facebook.com/joynews-on-TV. Post your comments there on everything that we post there, and we share them with the rest of the world. We are on Twitter too, and we tweet at Joy News on TV. And the hashtag to use when you're sending all your messages will be JN Interactive GH. I am on Twitter too, and I tweet at MN Toure. If you're sending us an email, send it to joynewsim@multitvworld.com, and our WhatsApp number is 0260 518 801. This is where tech meets news to set the agenda. So, you know, electricity tariffs have been subsidized by 25%, and government announced that reduction on Sunday. But a lot of people have been, you know, talking about it. And the big question now, which has been raised by MP for Osei West, who is in the person of Honorable Kweku Kwatin, is asking, okay, he is actually saying that this subsidy is going to cost us, you know, and he's wondering where all of the money will be coming from, and that, you know, why would even government want to do that now? Because it is going to affect us in the future. So he is on the line right now, and I'd like to talk to him before we go into taking most of your comments, because apparently he is in a meeting and he stepped out to talk to us. So we'll talk to him briefly, and then he can clarify some things for us before he goes. Hello, good evening, Honorable.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
That's good. Government insists it will get the money to pay for the subsidies. Do you have any doubts about that?
Well, I have doubts, and we have seen it many times in the past. We saw it in downstream petroleum sector, where government always froze increments in the prices of petroleum products with an assurance to the oil importers that government would pay them the difference. It never happened. Then we accumulated under recoveries, and then it came back to haunt us. We went and bought securities so that it became part of the national debt. So when government says, leave it, I would bear the cost. What they're really saying, many of the occasions, is that I will transfer the cost to the nation tomorrow. I think that is not sound economic management, and therefore I am looking at the relief government is seeking to bring in a particular instance and asking, how is government going to pay this? Where are the arrangements for doing this? As far as I'm concerned, the 2014 budget statement is finished. It's not with presentation. If government is now saying it would absorb this additional, I am told, 400 million Ghana cedis, it is good. That's government policy. Government has considered that in the circumstances, the prices cannot be borne by ordinary people and by business. And therefore, as part of an economic management strategy, government has decided to bring this freeze. That is freedom that must be allowed government. But what I'm saying is that if government is going to do that, then government must demonstrate that it is really going to pay the utility companies, so that a year from today, we're not going to have the utility companies come back to tell us that they have accumulated so much debt, and that unless we consumers will pay more, we are either going to have inferior quality services or that they are unable to operate. That is a caution I am sounding.
So your worry is that we'll be going through a vicious cycle?
Yes, that's worry, and with that has happened many times in the past. And especially in this instance, when the 2014 budget statement, I am told, is complete, I am extremely worried that this is pure propaganda talk. Government would say this, the instruments will not happen, government would not make good on its promises, it will come to haunt us as consumers. That is my worry.
But what, in your view, should have been done instead of what has been done now?
Well, the options are left to government. As I said, government's decision was that it would subsidize and that it would relieve consumers by some 25%. I think nobody can fault government for that. It is not my intention to do that. I think the government must have the freedom to decide in any particular case what is best to do. Government, in this instance, has decided that it is in the interest of individuals, it is in the interest of business that it cushions us. We're grateful, but we're saying that we want government to show us that this is not just propaganda kind of management, and that they have really thought out how to raise the money to finance a subsidy. Otherwise, the subsidy would not go, the support will not go, and we'll be back to square one. And consumers will be worse off. because in the end, we'll either get inferior quality service or we will be told next year that the utility companies are so indebted that if we didn't pay higher tariff, we were unable to get service. That's my concern.
Okay, but before you go, I'd like to find out, if you were in government's shoes, what would you have done?
Well, government has a record. I am not in government now. Government has the information. Government has a record. I mean, government can look at its strategies as a whole. Right. That perhaps I'm going to fight corruption more. I'll raise some savings from here and use it to subsidize. That is for government to do. When we are in government, we would review available information, review our policies, and decide what is best to do in circumstances like this. I do not think it is fair when I'm not sitting behind a policy desk, when I do not have information, I do not clearly know what the focus of government's economic management strategies would be, to start suggesting what I would do.
Well, I probably would have said then it would be unfair to think that government would not be able to pay. But thank you so much for
well, I'm not saying, if I can put in this, I'm not saying government can't pay. I'm only saying that government must show us how.
How? Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable, for sharing those insights for us on this issue. And that was Honorable Kweku Kwati, who is MP for Obuasi West, you know, trying to clarify some things for us there. So we'll go back and then take some of our video blogs that have been coming in. We have been out there and we've been asking you what your thoughts are exactly on the 25% subsidy, and this is what you had to say. Let's take our first video.
It's the betterment of the country we all want. So if the government has listened to the majority, we thank God.
Oh, I think it's a step in the right direction. But that's if the government, what they are saying about it is actually true. If only they will go ahead with the reduction. Because sometimes they make promises and they don't deliver.
If 25%, then it's okay for me.
I think it's a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. We kind of suffering, so if there is a relief by government, I think it's okay.
It's good. We are happy to hear something like that. But for now, we don't see it. We don't see it. When the reduction comes, we don't see it. But when the price is gone up, we feel it and we see that they have increased something like that. Right now, he said they are coming to do the reduction. So we need something, so that we need a proof about it, so that we can see, so that we can come out and say that yes, what he have done, we have seen it. So right now, if he's bringing something like that, it's good. Now we can get something in our pocket. Right now, let me give you an example. When that's 3 days today, I bought, I have my own separate meter, and I bought 30 series. When you come to my room, I don't use a lot of home appliances or gadgets plenty. But the 30 series that I bought, it lasts me 6 days. How much did I earn a month? And I will buy 30 series for 6 days. So which means in a month, how much will I have to buy? So what the government is bringing, at least it will help us. But we want to know whether what he is doing, is it going to help us?
Yes, first of all, the 25% reduction is a good news to think about. But at the same time, we should relate it to the rate of increment on salaries for workers. They must match. Because if you increase salaries for workers 10% and you increase utilities beyond 10%, then what are you trying to tell workers? How will we make up for those deficits? So I think the government must look at it again and find a way of cushioning the workers, as this thing will be, let's say, an exercise in futility. So that's what I have to say about this.
So we'll go to social media, especially Facebook, and take some comments that have been coming through. We have posted that there is a hue and cry about government's ability to subsidize tariffs by a whopping 25%. On JN Interactive today, we are asking which national project or projects are likely to suffer to make way for the 400 million Ghana cedi subsidy, and we wanted you to share your thoughts on that. FO says, and he comes out very strongly here, he says, see all this. Sometimes the problem with Ghanaians is that we talk too much. When the tariffs were increased, we were shouting. And now that government has reduced it to subsidize the cost, that one too is trouble. So what at all do we want government to do now? Personally, I don't think any project would suffer. Yes, we are in difficulties as a nation, but trust me, JM shall see us through. All projects shall be delivered. Daniel says the pockets of selfish and greedy individuals who have created a national project termed Create, Loot and Share are going to suffer. Darko says no national project is or are going to suffer to make way. After all, half of the 400 million Ghana cedis will be spent nyafu. So you don't think anything is going to suffer because you're going to spend it. Emmanuel Sin says we are suffering already. Prosper says though things are not in good shape currently, I believe we must all help the government of the day by working assiduously. Really? Okay. Gilbert says, as a government, we should not always wait for demos before doing what is right. Some subs JDM, but it's left with the water tariff subsidy. And of course, that's what someone was alluding to in the first instance. So we are not through with government yet. I am sure once electricity is down, water would also come up, because even though the 25% subsidy has been proposed and is supposed to take retrospective effects from October 1st, people are still suffering, so they will still talk about it. And when they do, trust me, I am here to also, amplify their voices on this particular platform. Emperor says, I don't understand this whole tariff reduction issue. Government reduced tariffs by 25%. I thought this meant that 25% of 78.9%, which is 19.72%, is what has been reduced. I need some clarification. Well, yes. The understanding is that 25% of the 79.5% would have been absolved, and so you're not paying 19%, my dear. You're paying 50-something%, not 19%. Ambrose says, I don't think any of the national projects except corruption will be affected, because corruption these days has become a national project. Karim Husseini, that means projects like building of schools, hospitals, etc. will be abandoned in some of those monies used for that. And you're sending this from Zebilla. I'll take one last comment before we take our next video blog. Isa says roads are the likely ones to remain constrained and and rigid, since the government will use such huge monies to subsidize utility tariffs. And that is what you think. We'll go and take our next video blog, and we have been asking whether government is interfering with the work of the PURC, because we remember government was saying that if it did anything about the tariffs, it would mean that they're interfering with the work of the PURC. So now that they have decided to subsidize it, are they interfering with the work of the PURC? Or you would think that, okay, government did not outrightly cut tariffs. Government is saying, I'm going to take money from my own coffers to pay the PURC. So let's take our next video blog.
Somehow government is interfering, but it's in a positive direction, so I think it is still good. It's a positive interference, so I think it's okay.
That's how people see it. By me, I don't see it as such. Because when you live in a country and things are going wrong, at least you have to talk. Yeah, so if you make your voice heard, then the proper thing is done. I mean, it's an improvement. Yeah.
Because to go to strike is not good. Yes. So if it can do something, then it's obvious that it's to do something so that you will be happy.
The government want the best for the nation. So what he is doing, that will favor us. We like it. That's what we want. Yes. So what the government is doing, I agree with that.
So we'll take some more comments before we go and take our final video blog. Abdullah Abdul Razak says it is so devastating about this issue because all projects are very, very important. Doma Code says no projects ongoing. After all, the government has suspended all projects ongoing. That is what you think. Ambrose says we need a more serious approach to this problem from the government. It's high time the government becomes serious like all Ghanaians. So you think Ghanaians are more serious than those who are governing us? Isa says the government is so determined in such a way that no national project will suffer. Raymond Anofrimpong says it is definitely the accumulated tax proceeds that should have been used judiciously to make life bearable for all and sundry as usual, going to cater for the unplanned 400 million Ghana cedi subsidy, which I consider a loss. Some politicians on this part of the globe are so intriguing. Ambrose, after there is no substantive project ongoing, they're only squandering all the state money. Adoma Kumo Job says there is no ongoing project after all the government had suspended all projects. So we'll take our final video blog, and in this blog we have been asking whether government has bowed to pressure because, hey, organized labor threatened strike next week, and so has government decided to bow to pressure just so that we don't shut the country down? Is it, everybody think so? You don't think so? Let's take our next video blog.
To me, no. Government knows what she is doing, if I'll put it that way. So I don't think government is bowing to pressure. Yes, it's something that they thought about it, and they think Ghanaians need that relief. So fine, it's okay.
Certainly, I think government is bound to pressure, but then the TUC too should not come and communicate to us that, oh, it's okay. It should come and hear from us whether we are satisfied with that 59%. So I think the TUC has a lot to do.
So that is what the gentleman has been saying. The Christian Salvo says, I don't think that it will affect any project. So those who are saying that, I disagree with them, because this is not the first time to hear this in Ghana. Newton Jaffat, education is likely to be affected, since I have heard that feeding programs for some schools would be stopped. Secondly, the roads in our villages are likely to be affected. Pag says, Nuno Mensah is vindicated. Some labor groupings still dissatisfied with the 25% adjustment. If they think the kitchen is too hot, they should better pack their luggages and leave the country. Thus, people are really influenced by you're making this very, very political, and I find it highly unpalatable that something that we're talking about that has no political connotations or undertones at all, some people can just switch gear, but you are actually entitled to your opinion, but I don't think that is a very fair comment there. Lancer says, I hope some people's salaries are going to suffer due to this subsidy. Anas says, organized labor has shot themselves in the foot. We want good things at cheaper cost. God save Ghana. Abraham Solomon says, I think the government should also do something about the water too, and the points echoing exactly what someone has already said, that once we are done with one, we're going to move on to the other one anyway. Charity says, no project will suffer at all because government knows what it is doing. Seidu Anas, organized labor, well, I've read that already. It came out twice. Adoma Kuma, I dare government that some projects have to suffer in order to subsidize utility. After all, there's no ongoing projects. Maxey Ram says education, because teacher training allowances have been abolished and all secondary schools are now made to pay their utility bills, thereby making it difficult for parents to see their wards through school. God save Ghana. I'll take my last comment so we can wrap up. Richard Boahene Ajiman says, we have once again pushed our development further into the unknown future. We want everything for free. And that is where we end the comments and wrap up for today. Bright Anfo joins me so that we can wrap up together. Welcome back.
Thanks so much. And at 8 o'clock, government says Ghanaians should be generally assured their safety, considering what has been invested in equipping the police service. Briefing journalists at the Flagstaff House, Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Felix Kwachiofosu said modern communication gadgets, close to 15,000 vehicles, and expansion of the police hospital. He says, though, the current police to citizen ratio of 1 to 784 fall short of the 1 to 500 recommended by the UN. The transformation of the service under President Mohammed's leadership is remarkable. That's according to the Deputy Information Minister.
And also coming up in News at 8 with Israel Laye, the Right to Information Bill, RIB, I think it was called RTI before, right? Yeah, has finally been relayed for the consideration of Parliament after the previous House failed to pass it, even though extensive work had been done on it. The laying of the document confirms MPs' insistence it was not with Parliament, contrary to claims by the executive. So that is what to expect. News at 8 with Israel Laye.
And there's also business, sports and showbiz. Thanks so much for your time. My name is Bright Nanamfo.
And as always, my name is Marian Toure. Have a good evening.
Good evening.